Good evening, everyone. First of all, I just want to say thank you so much, John and Lorna, for supporting this interview, allowing people to come in because I know there's still people coming in for this. Um, how I like to start this is if this is your first time in discovering LifeWave, welcome. You get to hear in real time what this is doing for people when they put this technology on their body. Sometimes it doesn't happen overnight. Sometimes they're called one patch wonders, you name it. But when we give our body what it needs to rebuild and repair and regenerate at any age, it's pretty phenomenal what we're starting to see. And so every Wednesday, we pick one person to hear their story. And I'm very excited to have Arnell Larson with me. If this is your first time here, please type in, and John, can you put this in the chat for me as well? www.miraclereadyinfo.com. There's some videos on there, 2 minutes or less that you'll want to take a look at. Go through the website. There's going to be more in depth what you're looking for, what you want to see there. If you're asking the person who invited you here, I want more info after this first exposure of listening to somebody's impactful story, please go to that site, then get back to the person who introduced you to that site and let them know what your next step is, whether it's, trying to find out what's going to be the right step for you, or what. That website will guide you to all of those things. So thank you so much, Arnell. I will have to say, Arnell, you have the biggest heart. You will bend over backwards to help anyone that you possibly can. And I remember just walking up, we met because somebody referred me to you to take a look at your horses. And that's how we started our journey with LifeWave. So, I know that with your husband, what I didn't know, because I'm always asked to come out and take a look at the animals. And when I shared with you what I was doing and what it did for my horse, we won't get into that on this time. But you saw this as an opportunity that you wanted to try it with your husband. So if you can just share with us what was going on for Henrik. And then I know you've got many, many testimonials since then. But first and foremost, what intrigued you to take a look at LifeWave, and then what did it start to do for you and your husband?
Well, it was exactly that, Tina. So it was just by chance. And I honestly think that the universe brings people in at the right times. And it was just my husband, when he was 37 years old, he was diagnosed with a growth on his pituitary. Back then, we tried something out of the box. That pituitary growth came back. You came into my life and you were sharing, after what I was telling you, what we had gone through the first time, because Henrik's ordeal started back when he was 37 years old. There were medications that he was prescribed after the operation that turned him into somebody that I didn't recognize. And he didn't recognize. His mood was all over the place. There were things that he couldn't control, and he just felt that it was uncomfortable, and there's got to be something out there that could help him lessen the amounts and the strength of his medications that he was prescribed. So through that, we found a gentleman that did stem cell injections. And that was 37 when he was 37 years old, and he was able to come off of one of those medications and bring down his other dosages. So now we fast forward. He gets his life back. There was a lot of healing that went on the first time around, but he gets his life back. But it took a long time because he didn't have balance, he didn't have concentration, he didn't have the ability to even think that he could go back to work. But he did, through those injections, get his life back. So now they monitor him a lot. He does blood work quarterly. He gets an MRI done yearly. He also gets bone density tests done just to make sure, because some of these medications that he's on, they affect some bone density and all that kind of stuff. So COVID happens, we get a new doctor, we find out it's regrown. And now we're worried. We don't know that doctor that we went to the first time around, he's no longer there. Our another person that we went to for another out of the box for diagnosis and helping him with his healing, he also was no longer around. You came into our life, and you've got these little things on your body, and I'm telling you, I'm in tears because we're going in for operation number 2. Doctors don't know what his outcome is. They have no idea. They've never gone down this 2 times path. And you showed and shared a picture of your horse's foot. And I grew up with horses, so I knew the repair that you had experienced with your horse is something that we needed to look at, because my husband needed to have his body supported in the ways that we didn't know anymore, and we didn't have that choice. And that you just came in there very sincerely and said, hey, I think you might want to look at this. There was no pressure. It was just, I think this might be something that can support your husband in his repair. So Tina, we sat down with you, and there was some other people that were integral in there, and we got my husband's body really strong. Like, we supported what he needed to do going into the operation. And then after the operation came the stress, is what I want to call it, because we were both scared to death. We didn't know if we were going to have to sell our home. I didn't feel comfortable leaving my husband alone, just to even to simply run into town and go and get groceries or do anything, because his balance was so off on the second time. Like, it was a really, it was unknown waters for everybody around. And when we started using this, Henrik started getting stronger. He wasn't sleeping as long. I mean, he would go down and he would crash for hours, not just take a half an hour cat nap. He would go down for 3 hours at a time, and he'd be out cold. And then when he'd get up, he'd be, disorientated, just couldn't do the natural, normal things that we take advantage of, what we think of. But the one beautiful thing that happened was he didn't have to go on one of those medications that controlled is in and out of water. So drinking and eliminating. He wasn't having to go onto that medication. And that was a wake up call for us, that holy macro, this is really something that, took us to a different level that we didn't expect. So we were talking about, because again, we didn't know, we're going to have to sell our home. We interviewed different real estate agents. We invited them into our home. What are we looking at? We contemplating on selling and simplifying our life, selling all of our toys that we worked really hard and that we love to do, and rehoming our animals and doing all these things because our life was in the unknown zone.
And when you say that, is it because of the exhaustion that Henrik was dealing with, or the ability to do, because you have a small acreage, right? And
We do.
and so whenever he was to do something, then it would kind of take him out for a little while, like energy wise, like he just couldn't function. And that's why you're like, we need to simplify because it's too much for Henrik. Is that correct?
Oh, big time. I mean, he literally would hit a wall, and I could see the look, and he would have to go and have a lay down. Like, he could not physically, his body could physically not allow him to do that.
Mhm.
So shortly after the operation, we made a decision we were going to go down south and just eliminate all the stress from home and not have to deal with, here's our house, we've got to go do this, we've got to go do that. And we just rode horses. And we were out in the beautiful sunshine in Arizona. And through that 4 months, he got his balance back. And I could see that. And I wasn't having to worry, because the most horrible feeling that you have as a person when you see your significant other struggle, like literally the simple task of walking down our hallway, our kitchen is on one end of the house, our bedroom is on the other end of the house. And the hallway, he would literally bump, side to side, because he couldn't walk a straight line. I mean, if he would get pulled over by an RCMP and they said, walk the straight line, they'd probably put him in the drunk tank, because, that's what he looked like. He just didn't have that ability to hold himself straight up and to do that. And yes, and we don't have a large, but it's enough that it keeps us outside doing our things that we love to do on our 3 little acres here.
And so
You know, we
four
call it the
months he was regaining his balance back. That's quite a substantial improvement for what he had to go through was. And what about
well,
his moods and things like that? Was that something that it came to regulate a little bit sooner? Like, I mean, I mean, nobody wants to go what you went through, Arnell, or what
mhm.
Henrik went through, but you actually had gone through it once already before without LifeWave, and then going through it again with LifeWave. What were some of those things that you noticed? Like balance came back a little bit sooner than last time? And then what about mood and energy and stuff? Because I know he kind of went on a pack trip too, like.
Well, that was just it. So his mood, he didn't go through because with LifeWave, we were able to keep his medications at the normal, I'm not going to say dose, but your body produces normal levels. With staying on LifeWave and getting the body prepared and stabilized, he didn't have to increase any of his medications. And that's what we were really worried about because when those medications were at, some pretty incredibly high numbers, I didn't recognize my husband. I literally would drive home and I'd be looking up the road and going, let him be somewhere out. Because it was so hard. It was so difficult. And it wasn't him. He could not control it. And that never happened this time around. And we worked closely together with yourself. I remember, I mean, we were meeting up with Ta like in the first part every week.
Mhm.
And then, she reached out to some doctors that we have and everybody just kind of dug in and helped out. And it was a sense of community of really helping us through it because I
Mhm.
was scared. I know how difficult it was, just standing by and seeing that your person that you love go through this.
Yeah.
But his moods did not change. He did have that fatigue, and it's just normal. So then another thing that ended up happening, so the operation happens, he gets strong. Then we have to do 25 sessions of radiation treatments. We live in Vernon. They were in Kelowna, which is anywhere from about a 45-minute drive, depending on what the traffic is like. My guy drove all but 2 sessions.
Wow.
The girls could not believe it, but he put the patches on as he was driving down. He took them off when he went in and he put them back on. And they could not believe that he was able to drive himself home. And those were consistent. They didn't happen on the weekends, but that's what he was able to do. And no other clients are able to do that when they go through radiation treatment.
Exhausting. Yeah.
So it was an ordeal I don't wish upon anybody, but I can honestly say that if we didn't have this tool in our toolbox, I don't know where we would have been. I don't think we would have been in our home. I know we wouldn't have been in our home anymore. And his quality of life would be absolutely horrific, Tina. So that's why I say I think the universe brings people into our world because I didn't know you. We weren't using an equine therapist, and this gal said, you should really try her out.
Yeah. I got
And
goosebumps. Yeah, because uh we're always yeah, I don't believe anything's by accident, that's for sure. Um And then you didn't have to sell your house. You've gone to, in the winter, you guys pack up and you go when I call you, you're like, we're just going for a 4x4. We're just going for a side-by-side run. So, what is that worth getting your life back with your partner that you guys plan to do this in your retirement? You plan to do that. You almost lost it. You looked at the option of, because you're right, we'll do anything for someone we love. And you were going to say, okay, if we have to downsize, that is what it is. But what is it worth that you didn't have to do that?
oh, Tina, to be able to have the choice and freedom, and what is absolutely brilliant is that we had the first time around when Henrik went through his operation, we had our own brick and mortar business. And we were the ability not to have to meet somebody else's hours was really beneficial. But then he also was a contractor. So he worked for somebody else. He worked for a millwrights hall. But now we get to work for ourselves.
Mhm.
And we get to call our office anywhere and to be able to go out and have fun and to be able to say, I think I might have something that might be of interest to you. Because so many people that we came across, and they're all, all kinds of different people, and the folks that we've met absolutely cherish in my heart. We, everybody's got a story. Everybody's got something that they're maybe struggling with or that, they would like to improve. And all we've done is said, well, I might have something that you can help you.
Yeah.
And our network of friends and people are just saying, well, when you come back next year, please come stay with us. Total and complete strangers. And to be able to take off, like I am so grateful that we have the ability to lock our home up, put the alarm system on, and then go out and have adventures
Hmm.
because we didn't know if we were going to be able to do that.
Yeah. And you do
We
such a
honestly,
beautiful, yeah. And you do such a beautiful thing because you're like, I'm not keeping this to myself.
mhm.
You were there sharing it, going, you might want to take a look at this. But what does it feel like when you're just the information, you just want to send it forward and whatever they attach to, or if they find it interesting, then you're there to help. And that's what I see you do so well all the time. Is if it's not for you, that's okay, but this is what it did for my husband, right? How can we keep those to ourselves? I mean, you had all the things prior to, in the first session with Henrik, and this one is such a different one. We've just seen so many lives transform. Like this is a frequency of medicine, we like to call it, using light that people are just getting to know about. And if I'm not mistaken, you're screaming it from the rooftop saying, you better take a look at this because, you know, um, I know we are talking about Henrik, but just briefly at the end of this, I know that John put in the chat, what patches did Henrik use? Because always the base of X39, we always use X39, but you guys hit it with the whole line.
we So to get Henrik strong before the operation, we used X49 was not in the equation then. So X39 energy enhancers, we used Eon, we used IceWave and Carnosine. The only one that we didn't use was the Silent Nights and the SP6
Mhm.
because we didn't know where his hormone levels were at, so we didn't have to worry about that type of thing. But what we did use, oh, and then pardon me, we just to get that, glutathione, because we were at that time we did have glutathione. It was glutathione in our hands. So it was pretty much everything, John. Um, and I think there might have even be way back in the early stages, a little bit of Nirvana because there was some benefits that Nirvana had, but that one's no longer available to us. And then after, um, same thing. So when Henrik was going down for his radiation treatments, it was the Eon. So it was always about opening up, lowering that inflammation, swelling in the body, getting where because the pituitary, like it literally is, if you go up by your ear and then straight back, that's where it sits, is back here. And there was a lot of stuff going on because they break the nose and go in and dig things out. So it was a pretty horrific what he went through. And then he wasn't the nausea. So when COVID was happening, I wasn't able to go into the hospital. There was absolutely zero contact with him this time, but he said he didn't have the extreme nausea. Um, he didn't have to have the catheter experience because that was also really first time around. That was they couldn't level out and lower and lessen the ability for the intake output because he was drinking thirsty and then constantly, eliminating the water from his body.
Yeah.
That didn't happen this time either. So there are some really incredible things that happened that we just kind of go, But it was what was the hardest part for him was not being able to control that mood,
Mhm.
like up, down, depression. It was just a roller coaster, and it just broke my heart. It absolutely broke my heart to see somebody going through that. And, he got a lot of pass for some things that he said and did. Because believe me, there were times I was ready to strangle, but we didn't have to do that this time.
Nice.
So,
And I know, Arnell, you have so many more stories, and I want to bring you back on to share what it's done for you. So I want to honor everybody's time because, you had, yeah, I don't know why you keep trying to break your bones to give testimonials, but you should stop it because this is like the second one. No, I'm just teasing.
yeah,
But what I
no, I'm with you on that. Totally.
to do is bring you back on, but I just wanted to say super quick, like in 2 minutes, and it's so much more. So I would love for you to share it at another time. But you broke your wrist in pickleball, and we do have X-rays, but it was dislocated, and the level of agony you had was really minimal, wasn't it? And the doctors were
It was
shocked.
zero.
It was zero.
It
So
was
go ahead.
it, Tina, it was so amazing. Literally, when I went in to get the x-rays done, so for almost 3 weeks, all I wore was this brace, and I just had X39, X49, and IceWave, and I had zero pain. Like I did not have to take one time, did I have to reach for that bottle of something to lessen that ouch, this hurts. It wasn't. So when we got home, we unpacked the trailer because I knew it was this. But when I went in and had the x-rays, I had three nurses come in and a doctor and then another doctor, all asking, what is your level of, the P word, pain? And I said zero, like literally zero. I did not have any. They kept on coming. I'm going, honestly, there's nothing that I need anything because they thought, because they saw the x-ray on how badly out of place it was. And
Yeah.
they thought there's no way that this lady is not, going through the roof on her levels. So
So you had to
it
get
was,
surgery. There's pins in it right now to put it back into place. But what is that worth not having to mess up your stomach or things like that? I know sometimes you're like, okay, maybe just to take the edge off a bit more. But for the most part, you're repairing really well, and quickly with using the technology. Hey?
yep. And that was a really interesting thing too. So 10 days after my surgery, so I've got a plate on top and I've got a plate on the bottom. So when they came and they took out the stitches and have a look to see how it was healing, the nurse who was taking out the stitches said, wow, I've never seen incisions look this clean. Like that was, and I would just been putting them on the outside. And the doctor came in and he said, those look really good because there is a plate that starts from here and it goes to here. And I believe I've tried to count, and so far I can see about 12 screws.
Yeah.
So it's going to be really interesting. The top one comes out, but yeah, there is no, oh, this really hurts. I haven't had one of that.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Arnell. I so appreciate you sharing the story. I know that it was I'm just so happy that you didn't have to go through when you know your partner like you do, and then you say it wasn't him. There is a level of compassion, but the person that's supporting somebody through something hard, I am sure the patches supported you on a level as well to be able to maintain, maybe lowering the stress and just taking that edge off because supporting a spouse through something hard I believe is almost as hard. So I know both you and Henrik and I adore both of you and I'm so happy that you got to change that story the second time around. Thank
And
you.
I am so forever grateful for you bringing this and giving me my husband back.
Well, I
So
love
you will always be in my heart.